Hi, I'm Peter Grant, and I'm going to spend the next few minutes explaining our financial model. I'm very happy to share the financial model with you, but this is just a short video to explain a bit how it works and also what the key drivers are, the things that make a big difference to the way you run your portfolio. If you are financially minded, then there are many tabs here you can have a lot of fun with. You can look at the summary assumptions, 10-year forecasts, property acquisition and income, etc., etc. Whether you're financially minded or not, the key tab is really the one around inputs and returns, and that is the one whereby you can put in different assumptions you want to model, and you can get instant gratification back in terms of what that means and what the outcome is. So whether you're looking at an individual property or whether you're looking at a portfolio situation, you can use it in exactly the same way. So let me talk you through it. The red ones, the red squares are the pivotal ones. That's the amount of cash you've got and the amount of gearing you're going to have. So they're preset at the moment for £1 million of cash and 75% LTV. We can reduce that down to £100,000. It's the same outcomes, it's just a different number of properties that you're able to buy, obviously. And then the yellow ones are the ones where you can model an individual property, so the average purchase price, the renovation costs, setup costs, the yield, and also the rental increases you anticipate having each year. It's pre-populated with the normal averages that we have as a business. So every property is different, but these are the sort of typical average numbers, as it were. And then on the return side, the big green box, first of all, tells you what the return is on your capital, excluding setup costs. Setup costs are tax deductible, so that's the logic of having them excluded there. And that big green box gives you that answer. If, however, you want to know what the answer is, including setup costs, then there's a button here which is to the right of the green one, which hopefully you can see highlighted, which is the one which gives you the returns including setup costs. And if you are into IRRs, then below that is also another box which gives you the IRRs. So whichever way you want to look at it, you can see it instantly is the bottom line. Then we've got below that in the green boxes, we've got the starting yield. In this case, we've set the yield in row 16 there at 5.5%, and it's increasing by 8% per annum. So you can see how it grows over a 10-year period. And you can also see the cumulative returns over a 10-year period as well. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how it works. And I just want to now look at some of the sensitivities. The most sensitive button by far is the LTV. So currently we've got £1 million and we've got 75% LTV. Clearly, if that LTV goes down significantly, then you'll be able to buy fewer properties. And if we, for example, make that, for example, £100,000, sorry, that's still $1 million, go back one, you'll be able to buy one property. So we'll keep the numbers really simple. If your bank LTV is, and your returns are still 36.6% in this example here, if your LTV, however, is 0, then you're clearly not going to be buying many properties, precisely 0, and your returns are effectively 0. So the LTV is an interesting driver. So if we put it back to 75%, you can see that on these numbers it works like that. If we reduce it to, let's say we double the money, and we make it 50% LTV, so the numbers all stay the same because it's just proportionate to what we're doing. But if we make the LTV 50%, then keep an eye on the big green box here and see what happens when I press return. Basically, your returns go down dramatically to 17.5%. So that's a huge driver, is the LTV. And I always got saying, you know, if the banks would give me 100%, I just buy everything myself, but they won't give me 100%. So what will they give me? And so that's the that's my philosophy in LTVs. But we'll put it back to 75%. So the next set of drivers are less sensitive. Is, for example, the interest rate that you get charged. And so we've got the bank interest rate over here set at 5%. And let's say you say, well, that's ridiculously expensive. It's probably the reality of what you're going to have to pay, or close to it. But if you put it down to 3%, for example, then again, keep an eye on this big green box here, what happens when I hit return. And you will see that it's not a major driver as such. It definitely improves things, but it's not the number one driver, not in the way that we saw, for example, the LTV drive it. So if we increase the interest rate from 5% to 7%, then likewise, it doesn't bring it down by such a great margin. So again, we'll put it back to the 5%, which is more likely. So interest rates are not the major driver in terms of your returns, and LTVs definitely are. Likewise, if you're someone who wants to achieve a really high yield, and that's your motivator, your number one is to have a really high yield, and let's say we change that to 7%, then we may also have to, you're probably going to get a slightly secondary area, so your rental increases might be lower. But let's first of all model the 7%. And it does improve it, doesn't improve it massively. So that's something to bear in mind. And of course, offset against that, you might have average rental increases of only 4%, in which case you're kind of back to where you started. So I always go, you're better to focus on a great area and not get too hung up about the absolute starting yield. So we'll put that back to the way it was, 5.5 and 8%. In actual fact, we've been increasing our rents by 12% in the last 2 years. So we're actually outperforming that quite significantly. And obviously, the better the area, the more the rental increase will be. Anyway, I hope that helps explain a little bit about the model and how to use it and what the key drivers are. Boils down to LTV, and really boils down to LTV and buying in a good area is the bottom line. So those are the two things to focus on above all else. If you want a copy of this model, we'd be delighted to share it with you. We can happily do that, and you can play with it to your heart's content. But hopefully this video has been helpful in letting you understand a little bit about the modeling we have. And that also, by the way, just to summarize, is how we work out the returns for a typical property based on the average assumptions that we've got for, you know, all properties over the last 23 years. Hopefully that's helpful. Look forward to working with you. Do get in touch if you want a copy of this.